Hello everyone, this is the BigBlueButton HTML5 client update. This is part of Summit 9 in Porto Alegre, Brazil. Today is December 9th, 2016. My name is Anton Georgiev and the rest of the team is about to present themselves.
Okay, so I'm Lucas Avaki, I work with MConf.
I'm Osvaldo Akawa, I work at IMDT.
I'm Mario, and I work with the Incom team.
I'm Gabriel, I work at IMDT.
I'm Leonardo, I work with Incom.
We're all from Brazil, as you can see.
Most of the team is in Brazil right now. So we're sharing from different locations. I work for Blindside Networks. So this is the agenda for today. We'll start with some progress update. We'll cover the architecture of the HTML5 client. Then we'll display some of the recent user interface updates. We'll talk about features that were added recently. And then we'll share some prototyping and investigation we have been doing lately. In the end, there will be links and resources, and this is a time when everybody will be able to ask questions and share comments on the project. The HTML5 client is actually developed in several phases. The first phase is the viewer client. So we already have a Flash client for BigBlueButton, and we want to develop an HTML5 client so it's able to do everything a Flash client is able to do. So as a viewer client in phase one, we want the HTML5 user to be able to join audio, to be able to hear and speak, and also chat. This is already achieved. The viewer should be able to see everything that's on the presentation. This includes slides, whiteboard marks, text. Also, emojis will be able to be viewed from the HTML5 client. This is all done. We have polls in BigBlueButton, and as part of 1.1, we have breakout rooms. Also, in the first phase, we decided to include advancing slides as from the HTML5 client, so that if a user is made presenter briefly, they can control the presentation. So all this has been already done. What's remaining to do is we need to finish the development of closed captioning, so we comply with everything that's in 1.1 for BigBlueButton. And another thing we need to finish for the first phase of the HTML5 client is viewing of desktop sharing. This is a big topic, and we'll have more details later in the slides. Let's visit the architecture of the HTML5 client first. Okay, so we have, under the line, we have the server side, and above the line, we have client side. So we have Flash client that's already existing, and we have the HTML5 client that we're building. So let's say if a chat message is sent from the Flash client, as you know, it has to be authorized, so it goes to the server side, and then from BBB apps, it's displayed to all the clients that are joined in the meeting. However, if the HTML5 client wants to send a chat message, this message is not immediately displayed. It also has to go to the HTML5 server side to be sent to the remaining parts of BigBlueButton apps through Redis PubSub. And once it's approved to be sent, it's distributed to all the clients in the meeting. On the HTML5 client side, we have client and server. The server has MongoDB, where we store all the collections, and as part of Meteor, we have MongoDB on the server side matched to Minimongo on the client side. So we really benefit from Meteor in the sense of the collections in in the server side are immediately synchronized with the same collections on the client side, but filtered so the HTML5 user only sees what they're authorized to see. It's time to talk about Meteor and other technologies.
So guys, as you guys can see, we are using Meteor as our JavaScript framework. MongoDB is synced on the server side with Minimongo. It's built on top of Node.js. It uses JavaScript everywhere, so we are writing JavaScript on the server and the client. All the user interface is reactive and has support for React for building the user interface.
Anton, can you give us presenter?
Okay. Here's some technology we are using on the server side. All the server side code is written on ES6 and using Babel to transpile the code. We are using Meteor, MongoDB, Winston as our logger, and JSCS for the linting. On the client, we are using ES6, JSX, and Babel as transpiler. React are your user interface framework, SAS as your CSS preprocessor, OCSS, CSS modules for CSS modularization, and just JSCS for linting. So let's talk about some user interface updates. Here is a screenshot from the HTML5 client from May 2016. And here's a screenshot of the current client. As you guys can see, we have a totally new design. Everything is more clean and easy to find out. Users now have avatars. We have unread counter for messages in the public chat or private chat. The chat can have the more message below when you are reading some older message and someone send a new one. We have a new emoji button where you can change your emoji status. Here's a screenshot without the chat opened. And here's a screenshot with the modal dialog for the join audio. And another screenshot after you click the join audio button.
Okay, so localization in the HTML5 client is currently using a hybrid approach to solve the issue. We basically combine the manual and automated approach by pairing up human translators with a localization or translation platform. In this case, we currently use Transifex. The benefits of doing this are that it's very efficient, accurate, and the translations are also sensitive to content, style, and tone because they're done by human translators. The only issue here is that there is an initial learning curve with setting up Transifex and getting accustomed to how the platform actually works. We also utilize in the HTML5 React Intel, and this is basically just a JavaScript library that allows us the capability of defining a bunch of string messages for our application that are then sent over to be translated in Transifex. Now we currently have a project open in Transifex, the BigBlueButton HTML5. Now this is basically where all the translations are done. We currently have about 215 source words and 6 collaborators. There's 5 requested languages, but as of right now, only the English and, as you can see, about 30% of the Brazilian translations are done. We generally use this for crowdsourcing because it's open source, so anybody can basically log on and try to be a translator and help out with that. And that's basically how we solve localization in the HTML5 client.
I'm going to be talking to you guys today about accessibility. So 2 of the main features that we've developed here in the client are first keyboard navigation, and there's a couple ways that the user can do this. So one of them is they're allowed to use tab or shift tab keys to get through either the application or different elements of the menu, and they'll go in a specific order and then return back to the start. And similarly, if they don't want to use tabs, they can also use the up and down arrow keys. And if they wanted to make a selection to change menus or open up a button or make a selection, they can use the enter or spacebar keys to do that. And you can see that just there in the images on the right-hand side. We've also implemented screen reader support. Many portions of the application already have ARIA implementations. ARIA, if you're not familiar, stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. Screen readers will use this ARIA code. So for example, an open source one we test with this NVDA. And what this does is it dictates the ARIA label and description for each element as soon as it receives focus. So if you tab to it or move to it or click on it, it will read out to the user what's the purpose of that button. And ARIA content also is generally hidden from view from typical user. It's just for the screen reader's usage.
Okay, so one of the features that was available in Flash and now is available in the HTML5 client is breakout rooms. So when invited, an HTML5 user can join the breakout room. When you are invited, you receive that dialog, that modal, and you can choose either to cancel or join the breakout room. If you choose to join the breakout room, you are moved to it in a new tab. In this new tab, you have the functionality of the normal HTML5 client, and also you will see the time remaining for that breakout room. Once the time remaining ends, you will be leaving the breakout room, as works with Flash. Another feature that is implemented in the HTML5 client is listen only. So the listen only is powered by WebRTC. It's implemented using Zip.js and Verto, and it does not require any sharing of peripherals. So the way it works is the client sends an empty microphone to WebRTC, and then you can achieve the listen only audio.
So earlier we mentioned desktop sharing and viewing it in the HTML5 client. This is actually one of the video uses in BigBlueButton. So when we talk about video, there are actually 3 cases we need to discuss. The first one is desktop sharing. So traditionally in BigBlueButton, we have a Java application which streams to Red 5. However, for the requirements of an HTML5 application, we needed to use WebRTC video. So what we have done, and this is, we have a prototype of this, but it's not all complete, is that we use WebRTC video with FreeSwitch, and we send video from the browser, so from Chrome or Firefox directly to FreeSwitch, and there it's streamed to Red 5 so that Flash clients can view it, while the HTML5 clients directly connect to FreeSwitch. We'll talk about that later as well. So this was the first case, desktop sharing. The next case in video is about webcams that are shared from the HTML5 client. So the challenge there is that this video has to be displayed back to everybody connected using the Flash client. So again, just like the desktop sharing using WebRTC, we use WebRTC video. We join a free switch video conference, and through the same way we stream to Red 5, where the video stream is propagated to the Flash clients. And the third case is if we have a webcam that's originating from the Flash client. So in that case, the challenges are actually more, because we start with Flash video, which we have in Red 5, and we have to somehow distribute to all the HTML5 clients. This is a challenge we're yet to be able to achieve successfully. So you'll hear more about this in later updates from the HTML5 client team.
I'm Daniel Pro, and I'll be talking about viewing the desktop sharing in the HTML5 client. So the technology we use to make this possible is WebRTC, which stands for Web Real-Time Communication. So WebRTC is a browser-implemented API. It's in browsers like Firefox and Google Chrome. And what WebRTC is a browser-browser and peer-to-peer communication channel. It's a secure communication channel for WebRTC desktop sharing. It's over secure WebSockets. And because it's a browser-implemented API, the communication can be done in the browser using only JavaScript. So client-side JavaScript code can communicate with another web browser, or in this case, communicate with a server. And in our case, it is a server. It is our FreeSwitch server. And so FreeSwitch has a package, modverto, which is an endpoint. And it implements JSON calling, and it's a messaging connection designed to be used over secure WebSockets. So the HTML5 client, or any client, can communicate with the FreeSwitch server using JavaScript and simply sending JSON messages, and they can communicate with the server. And so now WebRTC calls can originate from the HTML5 client directly to the server and receive messages and receive HTML5 video. This allows for sharing all browser-supported media. So this is the basis of receiving desktop video in the HTML5 client, but it's also a foundation to send and receive any other type of video or audio media supported by the browser.
Okay, so in this part, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we try to prototype and research a little in the summit. And this will probably, some of these will become features in the HTML5 client. Some of these are just experiments that will help guide our development. So can you give us presenter, Anton? Oh, okay, sorry. There's a project called Kurento Media Server, which is an open source media server, and what it does is implement server capabilities to all of the most of the GStreamer code base. So we can just load GStreamer modules and connect to it through WebRTC, through RTP, through RTMP, lots of different protocols. And then this can be used to coordinate media coming from different sources and going to different sources. And so we've been looking into Kurento to integrate it with mostly the HTML5 clients so that we can do video and audio and all of this good stuff. And so most of the projects in this session of the presentation, we've used Kurento for.
So since we are using the Kurento Media Server for the investigating, actually, the Kurento Media Server for HTML5 video, we decided to try it for the WebRTC listen-only audio. And the main idea is kind of simple. We just need to send the audio coming from the Kurento, from the free suite to the Kurento, and then redistribute that audio to the other persons in the conference. And we did some prototype, and it just needs more work.
With this functionality, we'll have better quality audio than we would have with HTML streaming.
So yeah. Okay, so we've also been looking into using Kurento Media Server for sharing and receiving webcams through WebRTC, and so in the HTML5 client. And it's possible to do H.264 send and receive, which is good to avoid transcoding on the server side. And right now, what we can get working is a user sending his stream as an WebRTC endpoint, and then receiving a stream for each one of the other users who has shared the webcam. And using Kurento right now, we can get, we could prototype something working where all the HTML5 users can see each other's cameras, but it doesn't interoperate with Red5, so not with a camera coming from the Flash client. Here we have a diagram showing how it works, and so it's mostly, we have a Kurento module in the server side. It's inside the HTML5 server. And this module speaks with the Kurento Media Server, which is a separate piece of software, but it will be installed together with a BigBlueButton install. And so this connection between the HTML5 client, HTML5 server, and the Kurento Media Server is used to open different video streams to coordinate different media pipelines in Kurento. And on the client side, we have a socket connection, WebSocket connection, used for signaling and sharing webcams. And then after all the signaling is done, Kurento Media Server will feed a WebRTC stream directly to each client which needs one. And so something that we want to do in the future is using getting video out of Kurento with RTMP so that we could feed it into Red5 and get the interoperability with Flash.
All right, so it's great to have all these features and prototypes, but we also have to discuss the release plans. As you already know, the HTML5 client is built on BigBlueButton 1.1, which is right now in, it hasn't released the beta yet, so we're talking about 1.1 development. And so we need BigBlueButton 1.1 to be officially released first to be able to release the HTML5 client, which goes with it. However, once that's done, you'll be able to install BigBlueButton 1.1 from packages and then use the source code for the HTML5 client if you want to develop on top of it. So the best place to look for the source code for HTML5 client is on the master branch at this point. And on this slide, we've also included a few links to the source code for BigBlueButton. You'll see the HTML5 client source code in the BigBlueButton-HTML5 directory. This is a link to the documentation on the HTML5 client, and also we have a link to the design. So this concludes our slides. It's time for questions and our answers. So please, if you have any questions or comments, write them in the public chat and we will answer as best as we can. So we already saw that Steven asked about shortcuts between if they align between the Flash and HTML5 clients, and the best person to answer that is Matt.
Hey, Steven. So in the HTML client, we haven't actually implemented the keyboard shortcuts yet, but I would think that when we do, they would probably have the same functionality as they do in the Flash client.
So we'll stay around for a few minutes so that everybody who has questions has time to ask them. Just a note that this session is recorded and you can watch the video again. Just look at the BigBlueButton Dev Google group. In a few days, there should be a post about the summit, and links to this and all the other presentations will be included in it. Thank you everyone for joining us today in this update for the HTML5 client part of BigBlueButton. Thank you for all your questions and comments.